Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us online. As you know, we had a couple of issues before that prevented us from going live, but we are very appreciative and very thankful that you're here with us. We hope that today you get a lot of information that you find useful. As you know, or as you might know, my name is Fred Marroquin. I am responsible for marketing and sales here at Sippy. And today I have two people from the support team joining me. I've got Arthur Kamisini and Sergey Priotko joining us. Sergey is an active member of our engineering team. He is on a duty basis, on a daily basis here at Sippy. And Arthur is the manager of the support team. So he leads the team and will be able to provide information to us at some of the high level in terms of issues relating to the support team. Sergey will provide us information on the nitty gritty of what he sees on a daily basis from support questions and that. So today we have a webinar today for you that revolves around how to work with support, some of the benefits of working with a support team in a manner that is well planned and organized to be able to get the most out of support. We are also going to touch on a few issues that relate to having a valid support agreement and some of the benefits that come with using Sippy's support team to the best of their ability. You're also going to get a little bit of information on some of the standards that we set to provide good service and some of the things that we're doing to improve on how we provide service. I see that there are a number of people already asking if it is possible to ask questions. There will be a question and answer period, but if you don't mind, we'd like to keep that to the end of the presentation just so that you can have a more informed grounds for which to ask your questions. But for now, we'll get the presentation started, and hopefully you do enjoy the information that you get and you find it useful. So first of all, one of the things that we want to make sure that we have a very good understanding on is how to communicate with us, the best way to communicate with us. As you know, the fact that we have to do many things virtually, pretty much all things virtually, implicates that we need to coordinate well how we communicate. Oftentimes, when you communicate anything via emails or via even a chat type of environment, there has to be a kind of a clear and concise way of communicating. So we are going to share with you some tips for how to communicate accurately and properly with us. I'm going to let Arthur begin by telling us some of the tips that we would share with you for communicating with us. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Fred. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Let me introduce myself. My name is Arthur. My surname is Kamishny. I'm a head of support department in CPSoft. And let's start the discussion of the first topic, ways of communication with CP support department. As far as probably many customers know, CP selected as a main source for the communication Freshdesk ticketing system. Freshdesk keeps all history of communication in one place and has a number of useful tools for the efficient work of our engineers. Periodically, we are getting questions from customers regarding how to get support via the live chat or via existing support line. And I totally understand and even would support such a desire because in some situations it definitely speeds up the process of explanation and clarification of many things. But at the same time, it requires much more resources, human resources on our end, and distribution of communication and work on the issue between several people to reduce the number of simultaneous tasks by one engineer that usually lead to some mistakes. Nevertheless, we are not fully excluding an ability to call to Sippy support line or work in the live chat when the communication via the ticketing system goes to anywhere. But again, I would like to outline that this is more an exclusion than a tent. But if you really feel that a ticket requires an escalation or requires a call or communication via the live chat, we are always ready to consider this and organize such a possibility. Fred, would you like to continue?
Sure. Thanks, Arthur. So one of the critical things that we want to make sure that we bring across to you is that there are various ways for communicating with us. As Arthur mentioned, we utilize the Freshdesk ticketing system simply because we deal with a large number of tickets on a daily basis. And there are many issues that are sort of ongoing in terms of resolution or feature requests. And so an orderly process for handling issues is very important for us in terms of communication. So while we provide that as the main way to communicate, we also provide phone service. The only caution that we do have around phone service, or the only request that we do have around the phone communications, is that there should be a very clear and a very specific need for having direct communication with the team, because many times that direct communication in fact hinders the ability for the ticketing processing system to continue to move on in an efficient manner. So you know, as Arthur mentioned, we've got a few ways that you can communicate with us, and please be aware that we are always very glad to be working with you and to be hearing from you. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide. So one of the things that we also want to do today is give you a clear sense of what it is that happens when we receive a ticket, from the very moment that we get your first request straight through to all the way until that ticket is finally resolved. So for now, I'm going to let, I believe Sergey is going to go through this particular slide. Please go ahead, Sergey.
Yes, thanks, Fred. Hello to everyone. My name is Sergey Prihodko. I am duty engineer at Sippy. Glad to participate in today's session. Today I represent duty support team, those guys who closely work with tickets and provide 24/7 service to you. Okay, let's get started. As Arthur mentioned, our ticketing system is based on Freshdesk. So when you send a request to support@sippysoft.com, we receive notification on Freshdesk dashboard, and then we start to process your request. There are several things we do on initial stage of ticket processing. Okay, the first one is security check on request is made. On this step, we are checking if source email address from where request is sent. We are checking if the email is trusted one or not. If the email is not authorized in our internal database, we request center of this email to contact switch operator to authorize this email or send request to support from already authorized emails. Okay, if of course if email is authorized, no problem. We are starting to process the ticket. The next check is support agreement check. We are checking if support agreement is valid for particular system or not. If support agreement looks good, okay, we are starting to work on the ticket. If the support is expired, we usually send you email saying that your support is expired, you need to contact sales. At the same time, we are notifying our sales and billing team also about this and request them to contact you as well. Then once sales or billing confirms that support can be provided, we are starting to working on the ticket. There might be some exclusion. For example, if we see that support is expired recently, as courtesy to you, we can start working on this ticket, but on conditions that support is going to be reviewed shortly, so as soon as possible. Okay, the next step is the request details are analyzed. Here we read what is their actual request and what is the issue, and analyze it respectively. If there is a lack of detailed information, if there is not enough information, we request to provide more information by asking particular questions, or we can give you our assumption how we understand your requirements. So we try to gather as much as possible information. If there is some call failure, of course, we are asking for call ID example, because it's very, very important for us to understand the issue. And so we are asking particular questions to before investigating this. So we are gather all necessary information. Once all information is gathered, we set type for this ticket. We have several types. That is internal types. For example, that may be type of ticket maintenance, or that is question, theoretical question, or that might be incident, for example, some call processing issue. So based on received information, we set type for the ticket. One more point is the last one. Based on description of the issue, a priority is set. We have types for the tickets that we set. Also, we have priority. Priority is also our internal thing, which we define for each ticket on initial stage. We have several types of priority. They are urgent, high, medium, and low. I guess more details about priorities also will provide you on the next slide. Okay, I'm passing the word to Fred now. And okay, Fred,
thanks, Sergey.
Please continue.
So,
okay.
Thank you. So one of the things that I think we, as I said before, are trying to impress upon you is having a sense of how it is that we process your tickets and your requests. So some of the information that Sergey shared today should let you have a sense of what it is that we take into account from the very initial contact point when we receive your email for requests for support, all the way through to when that support is started to be provided. So you'll see that we provide a security check. So for us here at Sippy, security is absolutely critical, and we maintain a very tight guard on security. So if you are sending an email to support from a non-registered email address, you will automatically receive a note from us saying, if you are in fact a customer of ours, and in fact you have access to the soft switch, please be sure to send us your request from an authorized email address. So we take that very seriously. So you should be aware of it. So if you want to make sure that your tickets are processed in a timely manner, that is definitely one of the things that you want to do. Make sure that you write to us from an authorized email address. The other thing that is absolutely critical, and in very large part what we want to get across to you today, is if you are an annual support paying customer and your annual support agreement is not paid on time or is not paid at all, that will in fact make the entire process of providing support very difficult. because either a support team has to come to somebody like me on the sales team or on the management team to say, can we provide courtesy support to this customer? And at that point, the entire process for processing your ticket slows down, because then more people are involved. A decision process has to take place. We have to confirm information. We have to find out whether or not, the account history, things like that. So in the interest of making sure that your processing for your issue is fast, there are many things that have to be taken into account. Making sure that you've got a valid support agreement that is paid on time should be one of those things. Details on tickets, as Sergey mentioned, are critical. We need to make sure that there's no back and forth in terms of how to resolve the issue. If you tell us, I'm having a problem placing a call, or my customers are having a problem placing a call, that will definitely be a bottleneck in the system if we have to find out which call, because you probably have thousands of calls going through. So we would need to know exactly which call and which number are being affected. So the more detail you provide, the better. Now that we've shared some of that information, I think that the other critical part of the topics that Sergey shared is the way we set priorities. So we set priorities because we want to make sure that by setting priorities, we have standards. So certain standards, like when we provide support and how long it takes us to deliver a resolution to your issue, has to do very much with the priority that is set on your issue. And so in order to provide a set of standards and to adhere to those standards, we need to set priorities. So if, say, your issue is, I would like to configure, say, how I process a particular call that might be sent through my system once in a blue moon. That is an issue that is different from, say, none of my phone calls are going through. None of my customers are able to process calls. So we look at those issues as higher priority issues, because we do need to have a standard that tells us internally that we need to address those things more quickly. So we set priorities. You should know that we look at your issues, at your support request from the perspective of priority. So if your issue would be considered a low priority issue, you couldn't expect to have that issue resolved within 5 minutes or 5 hours, right? It's normally something that we do take into account in terms of priority. If the ticketing queue is low, we address the issues very fast. And also, if your issue has already been sitting with us within the allotted time for the standard, we apply the standard and we resolve your issue within the standard that we have for practice for addressing your particular priority type issue. So having said that, please keep those things in mind when sending in your requests, and we'll go on to the next slide. So Arthur is going to now share a little bit more information to detail how we set priorities and what considerations we have around how we set those priorities. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Fred. As was already mentioned by Sergey and by Fred, our team use also as an additional criteria for the ticket estimation the priority value. On the current slide, you see a table with a list of internal priorities that our support team use for the efficient distribution of tickets and to reduce the number of risks by ticket to be lost or improperly estimated. Especially it's useful when, it's useful after the duty change. Engineer may faster start working on critical issues and detect which ticket requires an update due to overdue. This is mostly for internal use, as it was mentioned by Sergey and Fred, but customer may also request the estimation for his ticket if he estimated it in a different way. In third column of the table, you may see the frequency of responses for every priority. It's actually a first expected resolution time range for the reported by the customer issue. But please note those timelines that you see don't mean that you need always wait for the whole time range. This is the maximum allowed period for the customer to wait for the customer for the answer for the resolution. If you feel that your ticket takes more time than you estimated, feel free to ask support engineer to review the status and priority. Fred, would you like to continue?
Yeah, thanks, Arthur. So as I mentioned earlier, and as Arthur mentioned in a little bit more detail, the way that we set priorities doesn't just preclude us and does not stop us from being able to address your issue faster. It just means that we have a standard that we work towards and that we know that we have to deliver towards those standards. So priorities are set not so that they limit us in the way that we address your issues, but so that it forces us to have standards that we, as I said, work towards. Having said that, the priority of your issue also relates to the level of information. So your issue may be a critical issue, a priority one, something that requires our immediate attention and that should be resolved within 1 hour. But if there's no detail that we can use to resolve your issue, then that priority, no matter how high that priority we set, and no matter what standard we have for addressing your issue, if you do not provide the level of detail that it requires for us to provide your service, then the bottleneck will be started, and essentially the reason for that delay will be on the lack of detail that you've provided. So take all these things into account when filing your tickets. So we'll go on to the next slide. So as I mentioned at the very start, one of the things that we want to do is we want to share with you some tips that will help you understand us a little bit better, understand how to work with us a little bit better, and that will make it so that your tickets are processed in a fast manner. Sending me additional cash personally is not a way to increase the speed with which we process your tickets. So just in case you're taking that as a consideration, as much as I would like it, it's not going to help. So here are some tips that will actually help in reducing the time it takes to process your ticket. Go ahead, Arthur.
I suppose this question better to address to Sergey, right?
Yes,
go ahead, Sergey.
I can address this because I am closely work with tickets, and it's better
definitely.
for me, I guess. Okay, the first tip is use FreshDesk portal for sending support requests. For example, another approach of support request is using your mailbox, that is direct message to support@cpsoft.com. But there is a small disadvantage because, for example, you can confuse your working email with your personal email, and as a result send a request from unauthorized email, which is your personal one. We have such situation in practice very often, and definitely if you are using FreshDesk portal, you will never confuse emails, and your email will be trusted one, and we will not be waste time for authorization email, this unnecessary procedure. So, okay, the first one using our portal. The next one is something that we already discussed. Details are very important. As much as possible, details are provided on initial email. This way we will not waste time for back and forth questions, as we already discussed. That's also very important for us, and we will start processing this ticket quickly. And I guess that's clear why it is necessary and important. The third point is specify IP address. That is also important for us because, for example, if you have multiple CP switches, it's hard to understand which CP system you mean. So where you are having problem, for example. For this reason, we usually recommend to specify switch IP address either in the body of your email or by the way, if you are using FreeBSD portal, there is mandatory field switch IP address. So you will never miss IP address because FreeBSD system will ask you to add IP address. Because again, if IP address is not unclear for us, we are asking for IP, and then we are waiting for your response, and we are wasting small amount of time, but we can save it if IP is provided in original email. Okay, the next one. One ticket per issue. Our approach is to use one ticket for one particular discussion, for one issue, or for one maintenance. As practice shows, that is a very convenient approach because we don't mix up different things in one ticket. We are trying, usually we try to split different cases in different tickets. If we see that, for example, we have a ticket where we are discussing some configuration questions, then we are starting discussing upgrade in this very ticket, and total mess is created in ticket, and it is not convenient for reading for both parts, you and us, and there is probability that some important information might be lost because ticket is not well organized this way. So when we use one ticket per issue, ticket looks very convenient for reading, and it is easy for reading, and things are keep organized. So that is a good approach, I guess, and we usually try to stick to this rule, and we usually suggest customers to stick to this rule as well. The next one is keep support agreement up to date. As I already told, we on initial step of ticket processing, we are checking support agreement. For example, if agreement is invalid, we are asking sales team to contact you, etc., and then waiting for sales till they approve support of your system. So we are wasting some time for these unneeded iterations. So in case support is up to date, it's okay. We are starting to work on the ticket. We don't waste this time on those things while discussing the support agreement. So try to keep support agreement up to date, and we will save some time. Okay, the last one is complicated procedures require KVM access. As you know, before important maintenance, we usually request KVM access to be prepared in advance because KVM is a backup solution in case we lose SSH, and without KVM we cannot, for example, power on the server, or etc. So KVM is very mandatory. So when you are planning some important maintenance, just make sure that KVM is prepared in advance in order not to waste some time on establishing KVM, for example, by your data center. As practice shows, it might take some time to get KVM functional. In case KVM is prepared in advance, we again save some time on these unneeded iterations to communicate about KVM functionality, etc. Especially if there is strict deadlines, it's very important. I guess that's it at this point. Fred, please continue.
Thank you, Sergey. So as you know, and as you've noticed by now, a lot of the information that we're sharing is aimed at helping you, in fact, get faster and more efficient service from us. So, contrary to what some people might think, our aim is to always make sure that we provide fast, efficient support. So, if you want to make sure that you do your part to receive that efficient and fast support, follow some of these tips because they will in fact help. To give you I guess a deeper sense of why we impress this upon you. The one issue per ticket point that Sergi made is very important because one of the things that we've mentioned just recently is that we set priorities on how we address tickets. And so if you have two issues and you are trying to address both issues through the same ticket, and one of them is a lower priority issue than the other one, that in itself not only would create confusion, but it could also create a delay by the way by how we approach and how we look at the overall ticket. So things like that should be taken into account using the Freshdesk portal, not emailing me your question directly to me either by Skype or WhatsApp. All these things, while you can communicate with me, and I'm always very glad and thankful that you would approach me to request help. I cannot often be involved in any kind of technical manner. While I can pass on some information, typically what you might just get from me is just a request that you email support directly, simply because once you've submitted your request through the support portal, that request allows you to better track how we address the issue and the length of time that it's taken us to address the issue, and it'll help you for your own record. So keeping the request in the right venue is important. Last but not least, you will hear from me that keeping your support agreement up to date is absolutely critical. And I know that it looks like we've already had a couple of questions about what happens if the support agreement is not kept up to date. We will take some of those questions a little later, but so that you know, we do have a way for dealing with support agreements that are recently expired, and you know, we have ways of processing those in timely as timely manner as possible. But for now, we'll go on to the next issue, the next slide, which is around managing support standards. I mentioned earlier that we set priorities because we want to work towards making sure that the priorities that we set are in fact handled according to our standards. So I'm going to let Arthur talk about some of those standards, how we set those standards, and what things we have in place as far as internal processes and protocols for managing those standards. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Fred. You mentioned correctly, Sippy Support department constantly grows in service standards, and we always improve support skills. And as a head of support department, I constantly work on different procedures, checklists, which we see efficiently help to support team to reduce the number of procedural mistakes during the work. Nevertheless, with the growth of products, some procedures and policies become outdated and require changes, and we always appreciate customers' feedback in process of work with support department. Also, with a growth product, our team periodically performs internal tests of some workflows and procedures to reduce the number of some frequent mistakes. With a release of a new version, our staff also pass the internal tests on knowledge of new features and are ready for assisting to customers. There are many other internal knowledge checks which team performs to improve their standards. And from year to year, we are becoming more professional in our service. Also, I would like to outline that most of our staff has a big experience in VoIP, and all of them worked in telephony even before Sippy. We don't have students in support department because we have a big number of complicated procedures, and that's why we are hiring educated people and who knows VoIP well. All people has a high degree and a technical education. Would you like Fred to add something regarding this?
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. So one of the things that I think that you'll hear, and you've probably already heard from us today, is that the standards that we set are real standards, and that we actually work towards managing and maintaining those standards. One of the reasons why we impress upon you, or try to impress upon you, the real value of working with Sippy software in terms of not only using our soft switch, but also taking advantage and working with our support system, paying for our support, is that we have, in fact, professionals who are experts and who specialize exclusively on our soft switch and understanding the implications of how to manage our soft switch within your VoIP system, your VoIP network. We have in the past been approached by customers. I personally have been approached by prospects who have told me that that they were in the past working with one of these software companies that cracked our software and that are trying to sell support, in some cases for $100 a year. So you got to take into account what kind of support system is going to function on you paying $100 for a year of being supported. So putting the money discussion aside, the level of expertise that you get from our company is something that, if you take it into relation to what would it cost you to have your own experts in-house, it should give you a sense of the value that we deliver, not only from the point of view of how it is that we set standards, but how we deliver those standards to you. One of the things that Arthur mentioned is that we do not hire students. So we hire people who are experienced not only in VoIP, but who go through regular testing and regular addition of knowledge around the software that we provide. So when you work with us, you have, from the support side, an entire infrastructure that is aimed exclusively at providing you the best support available. So these standards that we are talking about and that Arthur has talked in specific about are excuse me, are standards that are set because we can set those standards. Because when you pay your support agreement, it means that we have an infrastructure that can be funded to continue to provide you at very relatively low cost the support that your system needs. So with that, please keep that in mind, that the standards that we set are very critical to us to maintain, and they are very beneficial for us to maintain. So with that, we'll go to the next slide, which is implementation of new tools. So one of the things that we are constantly doing, as Arthur mentioned, is setting ways of improvement. One of the ways that we determine that we can provide further improvement is by using new tools. I'm going to let Arthur talk about some of the tools that we are using directly on the support side to provide more effective service. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Fred. Definitely, periodically we are reviewing some internal tools and implementing them into our process for to speed up the process of support and to reduce the number of some mistakes and other things. And on the current slide, I attempted to outline the new tools which support team has in the roadmap for the implementation. Starting from CP 2020, support department starts piloting the use of Jenkins for the automatization of some complicated procedures like updates. Of course, this is only a first step, but this is a perspective project that may reduce the required resources for their execution, decrease the execution time, and reduce the number of human errors. Another interesting project that we are considering internally is an implementation of status page. It would allow CP support team to inform all customers about some global maintenances, updates, and incidents in one shoot. Incidents and maintenances can also be sent via email to subscribers or tweeted to followers in real time. And on the last slide, I was attempting to outline that CP support department also take a part in small developments and writes many useful internal scripts, which we later commit after the discussion with developers and after their approval. This is another point which outlines that our support team has a high level of education and experience on technical side. Fred, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you, Arthur. So Arthur's mentioned some of the tools that we are going to start using from the support side. You should know that there are various tools which are already in our possession that you as a user of our soft switch can start using just to help yourself, sort of thing, when it comes to getting information. As you know, we've got a support portal that is very well filled with articles that can give you a lot of information about our soft switch, and any questions essentially that you have can be answered through there. In addition to that, we have a forum inside the support portal where you can in fact ask questions from other users of our software that will allow you to get a sense of their practices and perhaps share some of your practices or some of your best practices, so that you can inter-exchange information that could be valuable for you and your peers, or your peers and you. So from the perspective of a use of our system, there are a number of tools that are available for getting support that are already available, which for some reason some of you don't seem to be taking advantage of. On the support side, for providing support, as Arthur mentioned, we have some new tools that are going to be used and that are already being used to deliver more efficient service to all of our users. With that, we'll go on to the next slide, which is, what is the value of support? So today, the point of the webinar, and in great part, as you've heard me say, there is a great deal of value that as a support team we deliver, and as you know, as a company, Sippy Software delivers. We want to get you to have a greater sense of what that value is. In us, you have a resource which you can utilize to help your operations be efficient and grow. We do not shy away, and we do not exclude the possibility of working with you to deliver a level of service that is conducive to helping you grow. So one of the things that we want you to be very clear about is that our support team is made up of experts. We are focused entirely on our soft switch and the part that our soft switch plays inside your infrastructure. Security is absolutely critical to us. you've seen in Serge's presentation that one of the first things we do when we receive a ticket is make sure that it is coming from a secure source. One of the first things we do during the provisioning process is making sure that we ask who are the people who have access to getting information regarding your switch. So all these things, they relate to security. That is just one of the steps, meaning how the email requesting support comes to us. Inside that security bubble, there are many different aspects to how we keep your system secure. As you will hear us say during a ticket that you might file, we place some strict rules around who we communicate with and how we communicate. 24-hour monitoring of your services. When you work with us, when you have a valid support agreement, you have the safe guarding of our team who monitors and is prepared to act on any emergency that comes up. And typically and regularly, the system sends notices to you when it detects that an issue is happening. Like, say, for example, you're running out of swap, or there is an issue with memory that requires your immediate attention. So all these things relate to things like CDR retention and making sure that you're able to act quickly. When you pay your support agreement, all these things, the infrastructure for alerting you that an issue is taking place or might take place in the future is there. So the value of the support system is not just so that you can file support tickets and so that you have a way of getting some assistance, but it's also there to deliver other things that you might not see on a regular basis, but which are helping you, in fact, stay profitably in business. One of the other things that we can boast is that we can assist you when outages happen to recover your data. If you do not have a valid support agreement, that'll be a very big hindrance to whether or not you are able to request to have some assistance from us. As I mentioned before, and as I'm going to discuss in a short time here, we have protocols for making sure that we provide courtesy in some cases, a grace period in others, that lets you receive some help from us. Above many other things is the fact that if you're a support paying customer, you get all updates and upgrades to the system. As many of you know, and as all of you should know by now, Sippy 2020 is about to be released. Sippy 2020 includes many features and functionality that will help make your soft switch operations, your VoIP operations better. If you watched some of our Sippy 2020 video series, you'll know that some of the functionality that's going into Sippy 2020 is designed to help you get more out of the hardware that your soft switch is provisioned on. We take not only the security of your system very seriously, but we also take the performance of your overall soft switch extremely seriously. So the upgrades and the updates that we provide to you are designed to help you get more and more and more each time. So if you're a support paying customer, these features and these upgrades are automatically provided to you without additional cost. Keeping your support agreement up to date is critical. Keeping your version of our software up to date is absolutely critical, because the functionality that we are delivering, especially that is being placed in, say, 2020 and Sippy 2021, which is going to be released next year, are going to be revolutionary, really, in terms of what you get out of your software and what you can ultimately deliver to your customers. So the value of your support agreement goes well beyond just having a secure system, well beyond just having somebody on the support team provide service to you. It includes many things, like having your software increased in terms of the functionality, and thereby providing your customers more value. So having a valid support agreement is not only an investment, it is a security blanket for the longevity of the profitability of your business. So take that into account and really pay close attention to some of the value that is delivered just by virtue of being a support paying customer. With that, I think we have reached the end of at least the presentation. Arthur or Sergey, do you want to share anything in terms of the value of support and what you think might be a message that customers should receive when it comes to understanding how the support team delivers that value?
I suppose everything was mentioned in our topics, but if customers have some additional questions, we may discuss them.
Okay, Sergey, anything to add before we move into questions?
Yes, I just would like to add that sometimes there are really complicated issues or setups that I don't know even how to achieve this without support, because we really have some complicated requests from customer, and we have internal discussion here to understand how to implement this better and suggest to customer. And without support, I would say it's not possible to do. Okay, so.
And I would like to add additionally that we never decline some new feature requests. We always discussing new features with our developers and trying to find the best solution for customers and implementing them in our new releases.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I guess we will start to address some of the questions that have come through. Let's see. I've got a question here from Sebastian, which is essentially, in case KVM isn't available or if it will take time to enable, can TeamViewer or any desk be used? Arthur, can you answer this?
I suppose Sergey may, yeah, actually both of us may answer on this question. If KVM doesn't available, we may consider the alternative approach for the connection to the customer switch, but every case should be considered separately. So, for example, if we are talking about the TeamViewer requires a separate payment and licensing. So, if it requires, it should be considered internally as a feature request, I suppose. Sergey, would you like to add something?
Yes, as exception, we can use such things like a remote desktop or TeamViewer. But it's more exception, and because you know that it's also needs some time to organize this connection, remote connection. It's not. It takes some time.
We mostly work with applications that are free for use. And if it's something that requires a licensing, it should be considered internally and the customer should request that via the ticketing system as a new feature for the implementation on CP end.
Yep, I think that's a good question. Do you have something to add, Sergey?
Of course, if you don't have chance to have a permanent KVM, we can consider such option. Yes, we can consider it individually on ticket to see what can be done with remote access. But again, that KVM is important. Why? Because it is permanent. It is connected every time, and we have access to KVM. 24 hours, but remote connection like remote desktop or TeamViewer, it's unstable, because if you turn off your PC, and we will not have remote access to the server, so it's unstable simply. Okay, but in general, we can discuss this option if there is no option at all to connect KVM. Okay, we can consider it.
Okay, thank you, Sergey. So that was a good question. Thank you. One of the other questions that we've got here is what happens if the SLA is broken? So if you got a support agreement, you're a customer who purchased your license and you're paying support annually, that support agreement, because it's an annual support agreement, it does have an expiration date. If you are a hosted customer, or if you are still on the Flex program and you pay a monthly fee, the support agreement obviously, and you might not know this, but it is in fact included. So if you're paying for Flex, you are in fact receiving support without having to pay an annual support agreement. But if you are paying for support annually and your support expires, I mean, we're not robots, right? We do have feelings, independent of what some people might think. We do have feelings, and we're nice people, and so we do have a grace period. If your software support agreement does expire and you have an issue come up, we typically look at the overall account and determine whether or not that that issue happens and your request happens within a grace period that we provide. Now, we know that support agreement grace period internally, and we take into account things like your previous account history with us. Are you one of the customers that is easily compliant with our request for information? Does your ticket require a lot of back and forth in terms of the level of detail that you provide, and how easy is it to provide support? So we have a number of issues that take place to review if your support agreement is expired and you have a support request. Having said that, that in and of itself delays the amount of time that your issue can be resolved by. And so because of that, we always encourage everyone to pay their support agreement on time, because while we have that grace period that we can apply for the sake of making sure that we're keeping good customer relations, we don't just apply it blindly, so to speak. If there are issues inside your account that would preclude us from providing support at all, then we are just not able to provide that support. But to answer the question with complete certainty, there is a grace period. We are no robots, and we do look at issues that take place when a support agreement is expired on a case-by-case basis. So we do provide support. It's not always, but as I said, we're not cold-hearted, right? So with that, thank you for that question. Arthur, do you want to share anything else around that question? And then once you do, if you have something to share, we'll move on to something else.
Yes, I may add, if customer experience some delay or some issues with some particular ticket, he may always leave a feedback. As far as I know, the customer's web portal, FreshDesk portal, supports a tool that allows to the customer to estimate the work on some particular ticket and to leave feedback about work on the ticket. We are always reviewing those feedbacks and doing internal improvements to avoid the issue in future.
Okay, thank you. I'll read, I don't know, I think we've got just maybe a couple more minutes, but I'll read one more question here about support and providing support for upgrades during the weekend. So one of the things that we are actively working on is increasing not only our support team by adding members, but we've also already started to add engineers on the development side of our software. So recently we've added team members to help us develop the software further, which again goes to the question of the value of the upgrade, which goes to the question of the value of the support agreement. And we've also begun to add team members that will help us improve our interface. All these things and all these people are being added as I mentioned, to add value. On the question of answering requests for support during the weekends for upgrades, we are working on it. Right now, there are some resource limitations that we have to contend with. We do look at these issues of upgrades during the weekends or phone calls or things like that on a case-by-case basis. So we are not blindly and excluding all possibilities. We look at all these things on a case-by-case basis. As I mentioned before, some of the things that we look at are the account history. What kind of account is this? Is this a customer that's been with us for a considerable period of time? When they do request support, does their ticket include a lot of back and forth from support because they don't provide enough information, or how easy or difficult are they to deal with? So we do not, as a matter of policy, provide support for upgrades during the weekends, but we also don't exclude the possibility of that taking place. On the marketing and sales side, these things are important to me to be able to say to you, yes, we definitely do provide them, and we definitely do this, unlike other companies and other competitors out there who might say, yeah, we do this and we do that simply for trying to get more customers. We don't do that. Sippy Software has always been a company that is leading by the way it provides technology. So we can easily go into big marketing and sales spiels about how great we are, but we are ultimately conservative with how we market the tech support and the tech components of our system. And because we do that, you know, I'm able to tell you with absolute certainty that while we do not provide support for things like upgrades on off hours and things of that nature, we do look at it on a case-by-case basis. And so, as I said, from the sales and marketing perspective, it is important to me to be able to offer complete and great service. With some limitations that we currently have, we do look at those things on a case-by-case basis. Hopefully that's addressed your question a little bit better. Arthur, if you want to add a little bit more, I'll take maybe one more question. But if you want to add more here.
Fred, I suppose everything was mentioned by you, and nothing even to add here.
Okay. So let me see if I'll just quickly read this question here, and I'll see if this is something we can answer directly on here, or if we have to take the question offline. Okay, so I'll read this question. I'm not sure if this is something that we can address directly, but Arthur, I'll let you answer it. And if we cannot answer it directly on here, then maybe we can send an email. So the question is, we have a common request. That is to have a dynamic rate, to have dynamic rates in base of minute traffic volume by month. Do you think that it will be possible in the future? Sounds kind of like a bit of a feature request, right?
Yeah, it's mostly a feature request that probably better to discuss it via the ticketing system.
Okay, so the question comes from Elidan. So Elidan, what I'm going to do is, in fact, share this question directly with our product manager, who will be able to directly address an answer to you. I think this is more of a feature request, future looking, forward looking to the system, rather than a direct support question. So I will share your question with Philip, our product manager, and he will address the question directly on email or maybe by Skype. With that, I think that we've reached the end of questions, or at least some of the questions we can answer right now. We've gone 5 minutes past the hour here. So we thank you very much for joining us. As I hope you would have heard the message today, the value of a support agreement is absolutely critical. We have stringent standards that we deliver through those through our processes, and we take all your requests, particularly when it comes to security, very seriously, and we do our best to make sure that we provide efficient and prompt service. Please take into account some of the tips and tricks that we've shown you today for dealing efficiently with us and working efficiently with us, particularly because they help you receive better service from us. For now, on behalf of Sergey, Arthur, and the Sippy Software team, we thank you very much for watching. We appreciate you joining us, and we will be doing more of these sessions. Thank you very much for now. We'll see you again soon. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
See you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.